Have you ever had something you wanted so badly you could already see yourself living it, and then watched it slip through your fingers at the very last moment? There was a woman who thought that moment was the worst thing that ever happened to her. She had no idea it was the greatest protection she would ever receive. Let me tell you what happened. In a quiet neighborhood on the edge of a small town, there lived a woman named Emma and her husband Michael. They had 2 children, a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. And for 12 years, they had lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building with thin walls and narrow hallways. Every single dollar they could spare went into a savings account labeled simply home. 12 years of skipped vacations, 12 years of packed lunches and second-hand clothes, 12 years of one dream: to give their children a house with a yard where they could run barefoot in the grass and a kitchen where the whole family could sit together for dinner. Then one Saturday morning, Emma saw it. The house. It sat at the end of a tree-lined street, painted soft yellow with white shutters and a front porch wide enough for rocking chairs. There was a swing hanging from the oak tree in the yard. The moment Emma stepped inside, she felt it in her chest. This was it. This was the place they had been saving for. The kids ran from room to room, voices echoing with laughter. Her daughter stood in the smallest bedroom, eyes wide, and whispered, "Mom, this one is mine, right?" Emma nodded, tears already forming. That night, she and Michael stayed up late, filling out loan paperwork, double-checking numbers, praying over every page. The bank pre-approved them. The offer was accepted. Emma drove past the house every day on her way to work, smiling at it like an old friend. She bought paint samples. She measured windows for curtains. Her son drew pictures of the swing. For 3 weeks, Emma lived in that house in her mind. She could already see Christmas mornings there, birthday parties in the backyard, family dinners around a table that didn't wobble. It was real. It was happening. It was theirs. And then the call came. The loan officer's voice was flat, apologetic, bureaucratic, a technicality in Michael's employment history, a gap between jobs 2 years earlier that hadn't been properly documented. The underwriting team flagged it. The loan was denied. There was no appeal, no second chance. The words hit Emma like a fist to the stomach. She sat in her car outside the bank, staring at nothing, unable to breathe. By the time she got home, another buyer had already made a cash offer. The house was gone. Emma had to tell the children. Her daughter cried into her pillow for an hour. Her son asked, "Did we do something wrong?" Michael held them all that night, but Emma felt hollow. She had done everything right. They had sacrificed everything. They had been faithful, hopeful, patient, and the door had slammed shut anyway. For the first time in years, Emma didn't pray before bed. She couldn't find the words. All she could think was, "Why would you let me get so close just to take it away?" The next morning, Emma's mother came over. She found Emma sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the paint samples she couldn't bring herself to throw away. Her mother sat down slowly, folded her hands, and said nothing for a long moment. Then, quietly, she spoke. "Emma, I know it hurts. I know you can't see past this right now. But sometimes God's protection doesn't look like an open door. Sometimes it looks like a locked one. And we don't understand why until much later." Emma wanted to argue, to say it wasn't fair, but her voice broke. "I just wanted to give them a home, Mum." Her mother reached across the table and held her hand. "You already have," she said. "This apartment, cramped as it is full of love. That's home. The house was just wood and walls. Don't confuse the two." Emma nodded, but the ache didn't leave. Weeks passed. She stopped driving down that street. She packed the paint samples into a drawer. Slowly, painfully, she let the dream go. And then, on a Tuesday night at 2 in the morning, her phone rang. It was her sister, Claire. Her voice was shaking, barely a whisper. "Emma, I left him. I took the girls, and I left. I don't have anywhere to go." Emma sat up in the dark, heart pounding. "Where are you?" she asked. "We're in a gas station parking lot," Claire said. "I didn't know who else to call." 20 minutes later, Claire and her 2 young daughters were standing in Emma's living room, trembling and exhausted. The younger girl, only 5 years old, clutched a stuffed rabbit and wouldn't let go of her mother's hand. Emma made up the couch, brought out blankets, heated soup, and held her sister while she cried. That night, Claire and her daughters moved into the second bedroom, the one Emma's children had been sharing for years. It was tight, it was cramped, but there was space, barely, but enough. Over the next months, Emma watched her sister begin to heal, slowly, carefully. Claire started to rebuild her life. She found a job. The girls started to laugh again. Emma's children became fiercely protective of their younger cousins, sharing toys and teaching them games, and holding their hands when nightmares woke them in the dark. The apartment that had felt too small now felt full, not of furniture, but of second chances. One evening, Claire sat beside Emma on the front steps while the children played in the parking lot. "I don't know what I would have done if you didn't have space for us," Claire said quietly. "I had nowhere else." Emma looked at her sister, at the girls chasing each other in circles, and something shifted in her chest. If they had bought the house, they would have been moving in right around the time Claire called. The rooms would have been full of unpacked boxes. The timing would have been impossible, and even if they'd managed, the house had only 3 bedrooms, no room for Claire and the girls. The apartment she had been so desperate to leave had become the exact refuge her sister needed to survive. The timing wasn't wrong, it was perfect. The door that closed wasn't a mistake. It was protection, not just for Emma, but for the people she didn't yet know she'd need to shelter. A year later, Emma and Michael started looking at houses again. This time, they found one with 4 bedrooms. Enough room for everyone. Enough space for the family they had become, not the one they used to be. The day they moved in, Emma stood in the kitchen, watching her children and her nieces run barefoot through the backyard, and she finally understood. The first house wasn't taken from her, it was removed, so something bigger, something she couldn't have planned, had room to unfold. The rejection wasn't cruelty, it was care. Here's what Emma learned, and maybe it's what you need to hear today. When God closes a door, it doesn't mean you weren't worthy of what was behind it. It means something you can't yet see is coming, and you need your hands free to receive it. That job you didn't get, that relationship that ended, that opportunity that fell through at the last second. What if it wasn't rejection? What if it was protection? What if the closed door wasn't about what you lost, but about who you were being prepared to help, to hold, to become? Maybe the house you didn't get, the life you didn't live, wasn't the one you were meant for. Maybe God was making space, in your schedule, in your heart, in your home, for someone who would need exactly what you had to give. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest blessings don't come when doors open. They come when we trust the one who closes them. The door that shut behind you wasn't the end of the story. It was protection for the chapter you couldn't yet see. And that chapter might be the most beautiful one you'll ever live.